Subject English, Standard 4th. Hello students, my name is Shruti Nanaware and our today's topic is lesson number 13, Sultan Ghiyasuddin in the Qazi's court. Hundreds of years ago in the eastern province of Bengal, Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah ruled the land. His capital was Sonargaon. Sultan Ghiyasuddin was a good ruler. He ruled wisely and well. He respected men of learning. He had a deep regard for law. So students, in this paragraph we understand that hundreds of years ago in a place of Bengal, especially in the eastern province of Bengal, the Sultan ruled the land, and the name of the Sultan was Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah. So he ruled that place, and the capital of that place was Sonargaon. So Sultan Ghiyasuddin was a good ruler. He was a very good ruler. He ruled wisely and well. The Sultan was a very good man. He respected men of learning. He had a deep regard for law. The Sultan loved to follow the law. Now the next paragraph. The Qazi was an honest and upright man. He sent an officer to summon the Sultan to his court. When the officer reached the palace, the guards stopped him and inquired about his business. When they learned that he had come to serve a summons on the Sultan, they were shocked. They refused to let him go inside the palace. Now the Qazi heard everything that poor woman told him, and he sent the summon. Now the Qazi was an honest man. He was an upright man, so he did not get scared that the summon had to be sent to the Sultan. So he sent one of his officer with the summons. Summons means to ask someone to come before the court. So the summons were sent with the officer, and the officer went to the Sultan's court. Now when the officer went to the Sultan's palace, the guards stopped him. They said, "Why have you come here? Stop." "What is the business?" they inquired. Inquired means asked. Found out about his business means what work he had come with. And now when the officer told the guards that he had come with the summons on the Sultan, summon means a written notice asking a person to come to the court. Now on hearing this, the guards were shocked and they did not allow him to go inside the palace. One day, while the Sultan was practicing with his bow and arrow, he accidentally wounded the only son of a poor widow. The wounded boy did not survive. Weeping and wailing, the poor widow went to the Qazi and told him what had happened. So now students, when the Sultan was practicing with his bow and arrow, what had happened? He accidentally, means by mistake, without any intention, he wounded the boy. Who was the boy? He was the only son of a poor widow. The poor widow had no one except her son, and the Sultan by mistake hurt the son of this poor widow, and he was wounded. He got hurt and he did not survive. He lost his life. Now when this happened, the poor widow started weeping, crying and wailing. Wailing means to cry loudly for a long time. And now the poor woman went to the Qazi and told him all that had happened. Meanings: wailing, crying and sobbing loudly and long. Upright means just. Summon, to order someone to come to the court. At last he began to sound the azan, the call for prayer, loudly just outside the palace. It was not yet the time for prayer when the Sultan heard the loud, untimely call. He was greatly surprised. He ordered that the man giving the call should be brought before him immediately. Now, what happened? The officer thought and he came up with a plan. He started the sound of azan. Now, what is azan? Azan is a call for prayer, and he made a loud noise standing outside the palace. And it was not time for prayer. And so the Sultan heard his loud noise, and he said, "It is not the time for azan, and who is making this loud noise?" And he was surprised, and he ordered the guards to bring this person, whoever he is, immediately inside. Next paragraph. The officer now was on a fix. The guards did not allow him to enter the palace, but he knew that he could not return without serving the summons. The Qazi would not take him back. He had to find a way of reaching the Sultan somehow. What could he do? He thought and thought. So now the officer was not allowed inside the palace by the guards. He was in a fix. Fix means now in a difficult situation. He did not know what to do, because if he did not give the summons to the Sultan, he would not be able to stand in front of the Qazi. So now he had to think about the plan. How will I give the summons to the Sultan? So he thought and kept on thinking for some time. Now, what did he do? Meanings: fix, a difficult or awkward situation. Summons, a written notice ordering someone to appear in court. Next paragraph. His soldiers rushed out of the palace gates, caught the officer, and took him to the Sultan within moments. When the officer knelt before the Sultan, he was trembling with fear, but he mustered all his courage and explained why he had given the call for azan. Then, with shaking hands, he gave the summons to the Sultan. Sultan Ghiyasuddin took it without making any comment. He read the summons and told the officer to go back to the Qazi. He announced that he would appear in Qazi's court the next day. Now here we learn that the soldiers had to leave the officer inside the palace because the king, that is the Sultan, has ordered the soldiers to rush and get him inside. So this was the wonderful chance for the officer to enter into the palace. Now he started getting scared because all the soldiers have came to take him inside. And so when he reached the palace in front of the Sultan, he knelt. The officer knelt before the Sultan and he was trembling. Trembling means shivering in fear. But he took courage. Mustered means somehow he took courage, and he explained it to the Sultan. He said, why did he make the call for Azan though it was untimely? Untimely means not time for prayer. And with shaking hands, he gave the summons to the Sultan. Now you know what the summon means. It means a written notice asking the Sultan to be present at the court. Now Sultan Ghiyasuddin took it in his hands and he did not comment. Comment means he did not said anything. He read the summons and told the officer to go back to the Qazi, and he also told him that he would come or appear in Qazi's court the next day. The next paragraph. The next morning, the Sultan got ready to appear before the Qazi. He hid a sharp sword in his robe and set out. The courtroom was packed with people. Everyone was eager to see what would happen. The Qazi entered and took his place on the high seat of honor. In a little while, the Sultan Ghiyasuddin entered the courtroom. Everyone stood up to show respect to the Sultan. But the Qazi did not get up. The Sultan stood in the docks and the trial began. The widow presented her complaint. The Qazi took note of all the evidence in a grave voice, addressed the Sultan. Now the Sultan already told the officer that he would be present at the court in front of the Qazi. Next morning, the Sultan was there at the courtroom and he had a sharp sword which he hid in his robe. Now, what is a robe? A robe is a long gown, and there he kept a sword hidden with him. Now, when he went to the courtroom was packed with people. Everyone there was eager to see what is going to happen. And the Qazi entered and took the place that is on the high seat of honor. Now he is like a judge over there and he is going to judge the situation. So he took the seat of honor, and after some time means a little while. After some time, who came in? The Sultan, and he too entered the courtroom. When the Sultan entered, everyone stood up because they respected Sultan. But the Qazi did not get up because now he held the place of honor. The Sultan stood in the docks. Now, what is docks means? So, dock means in an enclosed place where a person who had committed some mistakes stands in front of the Qazi. Now the trial began, and when the trial began, what happened? The widow told all the complaints she had against the Sultan, and the Qazi took note of it. Means he kept on understanding what is happening, keeping a note, writing it down, and the evidence was given. The widow told everything what had happened and in a grave voice addressed the Sultan. Now who is addressing the Sultan? The Qazi. In a grave voice he addressed the Sultan. Meanings: docks, an enclosed space in the court of law for the accused person. Next paragraph. You are guilty of causing the death of the only son of this poor widow. According to the law, you must pay a fine for this offense. I order you to do that without delay. The Sultan accepted the judgment and apologized to the widow. He arranged to pay the fine immediately. The widow felt satisfied that the offense was brought home of the offender. When the case was over, the Qazi got up from his high seat of honor. Respectfully, he bowed to the Sultan and requested him to take his seat. Now, what happened? The Qazi told the Sultan that he was guilty of causing the death of the only son of the poor widow. He said that he is wrong in doing that act of mistake by killing the son of the poor widow, and so, according to the law, means according to the rules, he has to pay a fine. Offense means wrong deed. So, because of that wrong deed, because of the offense that the Sultan committed, to pay a fine to the poor widow. That was the order, and he said to do it immediately. So the Sultan also accepted it, and he said, "Okay, I will do it." And he apologized. Apologize means he said sorry, and he arranged to pay the money, the fine money, immediately to the widow. And now the widow was very satisfied. She was happy that the offense was brought home to the offender. Offender means a person who commits mistake, who has done something wrong. So now everything was satisfied. The widow was happy with what happened. And now, after everything was over, what happened? Now the Qazi got up from his seat of honor, and with respect he bowed down before the Sultan, because the Sultan is above the Qazi and he needs to the respect to Sultan, and so he requested him to sit on the seat. Meanings: offense, crime, a wrong deed. Offender, a person who has done something wrong or illegal. The next paragraph. The Sultan then drew the hidden sword from his robes and told the Qazi, "I am happy that you did not waver in your duty. You did not hesitate to punish me. Otherwise, I would have beheaded you with this sword." Now, here the Sultan is telling the Qazi, he took the sword out and he is telling the Qazi, "Now I am happy that you did not waver in your duty." What is the meaning of waver? It means you did not become weak when you made a decision. So he is saying, if you waver, what would I do? I would have taken the sword and cut your head. Beheaded means cutting off the head. But he said, "I am happy that you are very honest and you did your duty properly." The Qazi then put his hand under the cushion where the Sultan was seated and brought out a whip. He said, "Your Majesty, I am happy because you obeyed the law. Otherwise, I would have whipped you in this court." The Sultan then got up and embraced the Qazi. "Thank God we both did our duty," he said. Everyone present in the court praised the two great men. Now, what happened? The Qazi bent down and below the cushion where the Sultan was sitting, that is below the seat, he took out the whip. Now, what is a whip? Whip is a thing which is used to beat the person as a punishment. It is used on people as well as animals. So the Qazi, so this Qazi, he took out the whip and he told the Sultan, "Your Majesty, I am happy because you obeyed the law. If you did not obey, if you disobeyed, you know what would I do? I would have whipped you in this court." And the Sultan then got up and embraced the Qazi and he said, "Thank God we both did our duty and we are honest." And everyone in the court was happy and they praised these two great men, that is Qazi and the Sultan. Meanings: waver means falter, hesitate, become unsure. Make sentences of your own. So, students, here words are given and you have to frame your own sentences. The first one is given for you. The first one is guards. The sentence is the dog guards our house. So, in this way, you have to frame the sentences. Read the paragraph and find out the nouns and pronouns. Students, here the paragraph is given and you have to find out the nouns and pronouns from the given paragraph and you have to write it in the box. Read the paragraph and find out the adjectives. So, student, you have to find out the adjectives from the given paragraph. Give the opposites of the following words. First one: Eastern, Western, untimely, timely, appear, disappear, respect, disrespect, accepted, rejected, present, absent, or past or future. So, students, hope you have understood this lesson. Keep learning. Thank you.